These are my predictions. Now, at this point, we're sort of almost completing week 2. So just for the people who were like, you never put a date in the video. Right, well, now you know. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to go with my original thoughts, even though some of the results seem contrary to that. It's early days. 2 fucking games. It doesn't really matter. So let's start with who I think are going to win. And I'm sorry, I'm not getting fooled this time. I'm putting City this time. For the following reason, even with De Bruyne being injured, which obviously he wasn't injured when I would have done this ordinarily if I hadn't been on holiday. But I just think that their transfer business was still pretty solid. They've got players peaking and developing, like Grealish is actually, it pains me to say it, he's actually a legit good player right now and makes a stellar contribution to City. When he first joined, he looked like a 30 million player, not a 100 million player. But for me, what really is going to put them over the top are 2 things. And the first is Gvardiol. I think in Gvardiol, they found the long-term replacement for Vincent Kompany they never really had. All due respect to all the other players that have tried to fill that role. It's incredible boots to fill. I think Gvardiol's that guy. I think he is tailor-made for the City system. And obviously, having now subsequently seen him play, it looks to be a really good thing. So I got to say, I think Gvardiol is going to be huge. And I think low-key, I think Chelsea need their head examined for letting Kovacic go. I think Kovacic is actually going to be... He's not going to be like the signing of the summer, but when you talk about good bits of business, you know, in the same way that maybe like Zivchenko was for like Arsenal, you know, Kovacic is one of those players who's like, I don't know, man. Like, I watched Chelsea today. Like, obviously, you know, I just set the stream live after the game. I was like watching Chelsea and I'm just like, what, you know, man, don't tell me Kovacic wouldn't have bossed that midfield today. So I think City, Haaland's a freak, and that's not going to change, and he must win the Ballon d'Or. I keep calling it the Balloon d'Or like I'm a fucking 8-year-old. So I see City doing it again. Now, obviously, Arsenal should get pretty close. I think Arsenal will be second again, based on everything I've seen this season and in the transfer activity. I think Arsenal's transfer businesses we'll get to in a bit. I think it's good. I think they did well. I'm a hater of Rice, as you know. I think he's a fraud. I think he's super overrated. I don't think he's a £105 million player, but whatever. He definitely is what they need. And I think once they nail the system, they'll be okay. They looked very shaky for like the last 20 minutes against Nottingham Forest. I watched that game, and I do think Rice went missing a bit in terms of him getting hold of the midfield, which was a big criticism I had from him at West Ham. His stats are good, his passing accuracy is good, he breaks up a lot of play, but then like he has these periods in a game where the midfield seems to bypass him, and sometimes that can be fatal because he's in a very important role. I still think he was the right signing for Arsenal, so don't get me wrong, I'm not that much of a hater, but I think overall, I think Arsenal are improved this season. They bottled the league last season. They know what it's like now. The worst thing that can happen to you from pole position has happened. And who knows? A lot of people were surprised when I picked Arsenal to be up there last season. I think we can all agree now with the talent they've got, they'll be up there again this season. And I think, you know, 2 runners-up spots will be pain for Arsenal fans. But actually, speaking as a Newcastle fan who had that happen to them, you know, you look back on those days where it's like, you know what? Second runners-up in the Prem, you know, that still means you're a hell of a team. Third, now we got problems already, right? How the fuck do you pick third? It's very, very tough, especially after the result. The results are poisoning my mind. Because I wasn't going to put Newcastle top 4, but they just might be. They just might be a top 4 team this season. I don't believe Spurs are going to be in the top 4 this season without Harry Kane. You can jerk off about beating United the other day all you want. It's not going to work. And so the way I was going to go with it was I was going to go with United. Now, this obviously makes me look like I've had my skull smashed in while I was on holiday and I've come back operating at like fucking 60 IQ. But I think in general, United's transfer business was decent. Although, again, Mason Mount is another fraud. He's another English fraud who they should never have paid the money they paid for him. And when you look at some of the other players that were available, it's on record. I was never sold on Mount. Mount and Casemiro just doesn't work for me personally, but whatever. But I think overall, keep in mind their system is going to change once Højlund gets fit. I think he is an excellent signing. I think once you have Højlund playing through the centre and Rashford on the left, suddenly United can cook. They're not going to keep this system the way it is now. And incredibly, I was watching them play the other day with just not really anything going on in midfield. The system wasn't really sticking. And I thought, you know what? McTominay could get back into this team. And maybe will. So I think Ten Hag will have looked at those first two games, and we know he's a man not afraid to make changes. We know he's a man who will cut big names. He doesn't give a fuck about egos, and, he's going to take some fucking souls. He's going to reap some souls. I think United will get it right, and I think they are top four again this season. I think if they're not, if they finish outside the top four, it's an absolute disaster, and Ten Hag will be having a lot of scrutiny applied to him that might not be fair. He has inherited a lot of junk at United. But I think we can also say now, Anthony as a signing has been a fucking disaster. Like 95 mil or whatever the fuck it was. He's trash. And now we've got this thing, 70-page complaint from an ex-girlfriend coming in for domestic abuse, where he might have to serve a suspension or even go to prison. And with the Greenwood controversy in there as well. I don't know. United are going to have to really get a fucking handle on, how many fucking dirtbags they won at the club. And I don't know why Ten Hag is even waded into the Greenwood stuff. He's a fucking idiot for saying we have a duty of care to the player. But anyway, I'm doing a Premier League supplemental about that, about all of the controversy, the Paqueta controversy at West Ham and the Greenwood controversy at United. Regardless, I look at the squad. I believe in Ten Hag. I think he's a fantastic manager. Onana is a game changer for them. They made so many unforced errors playing it out from the back because De Gea was it's just not, he cannot pass the ball. Onana can pass a ball better than most defenders in the Premier League. So I believe in them, and I think they'll finish in the top four. Next up, God, this is tough. Liverpool fourth. I want to say Newcastle, but I'm trying to counteract my bias because I think a season in the Champions League is it's very hard to get used to with a small squad playing in midweek and traveling in midweek. I'm going to say Liverpool, and I'll explain why. Liverpool did get humiliated in the transfer market this season. They missed out on a ton of big targets. It's been pretty embarrassing and cringe for them. No getting away from that. But they still did do some decent business. They need one more signing. There's still time for it to go. Salah isn't going to be bad for 2 seasons in a row. Núñez is going to find his feet. Gakpo can't stay Gakpo. I think Liverpool need top 4 or Klopp could be out of a job, frankly. Not being in the Champions League for Liverpool and the standards they've set themselves of late is disastrous. And Liverpool are usually quite savvy in their transfer business. I think they'll finish top 4, which means I'm going to put Newcastle in at 5th. I really have been impressed with Eddie Howe, and I gotta say, I watched all of the preseason friendlies in America when Newcastle were participating. I thought they looked great. I think the signings that even I was a bit underwhelmed by, like Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes is going to be a great squad player for us. I think he'll eventually, he could even play his way into the squad. He looked really good when he came on against Villa in the 5-1 win. I think Isak is ready to go now. I know the Alain Saint-Maximin transfer looked a little bit controversial and a little bit undersold, but I'm almost kind of glad to see the back of him because he came into the team, he was explosive, he did a lot, but then he became like almost like season 1 Ronaldo at United. All tricks, all step overs, beat a man, but no end product. You can't justify that anymore, particularly as well. I think with Tonali and Guimaraes, I think you've got probably one of the like best centre mid pairings in the league, and we've got other midfield players around there. Like Joe Linton's good for particular things, and Harvey Barnes can come on and be a game changer. Willock's still around the fringe as well. Also we signed Lewis Hall. I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about Newcastle finishing top 5, top 6 this season. So I'm in on that. Now this is where it's going to get controversial, because I'm going to do this. Brighton is the best run football club in the Premier League, maybe even Europe. I think the way that they've gone about their transfer business, like, by the way, what De Zerbi said about fucking Caicedo leaving, and lol at Caicedo today, 115 mil. To give away a penalty and make a fucking fool of yourself and get done by Paqueta. De Zerbi just said, I've already forgotten about Caicedo. I don't care. They've got some of the best young players in the league. They play great football. It clearly just wasn't Graham Potter being a great technician. They have the best scouts in the Premier League in terms of unearthing talent. They're really getting close to being like an RB Leipzig in the Prem. They're starting to, reap dividends. And I gotta say, I think they will surprise a few people. They'll be right up there, while some of these other big teams are going to languish and struggle. So yes, I'm a believer in top 6 for Brighton. They should have had Europe last season. Terrible refereeing decisions against Brighton basically cost them that. It won't happen again this season, and I think top 6 for Brighton. I feel pretty confident about that. This is where it gets hard now, guys. This is where it gets really fucking hard. Because Villa, where did Villa go? Where did Brentford go? Very tough. Very, very tough. Villa potentially at 7th, but I think if I put Chelsea any lower than this, it's crazy. Like, they can't. Like, the money they've spent, they've nearly spent $1 billion in 3 transfer windows. Pochettino is the manager, so I don't know. Chelsea have to be at least 7th. Like, that will still be an embarrassment for what they've spent. But I'm just going to go there. I think I have said this, and I've backed it with my fantasy picks. I think Nkunku is going to fucking be an absolute barnstorming signing in the Premier League. I think he's great. It's a shame he's injured. But he's in my fantasy team. But I'm gonna go with they're gonna creep back into Europa, and it's gonna be fucking embarrassing. Even that they finish 7th, but that's where I got them. And then you just get into the melange of like the higher mid-table. I'm gonna go Villa now, and keep in mind, I think 6, 7, and 8, you might be able to swap these dudes around. Brighton, I think, are the best of those 3. Villa. That's Burnley. Lol. Villa, they lost Buendia at the start of the season. They lost Buendia, and he was playing unfucking real in the preseason friendlies. I even made a point when I was talking about the transfers, saying like losing Buendia, because everyone's knees are blowing out. I don't know what's going on in the Premier League. I've seen like so many ACL tears across Europe, even in the women's game. I think Arsenal's women's team had 4 ACL tears. Like, it's I don't know what's going on. Like, it's mad. Like, people's knees are just fucking exploding in world football. Happened at Real Madrid too, like, didn't it? Like, Courtois blew his fucking ACL out, and some other motherfucker did it, like, the following week. Yeah, just fucking crazy. So, no clue what's going on there. No, there'll be people on Twitter going, I bet they had the vaccine. Thanks, Pfizer. My knees. Yeah, Militao, that was it. So, I don't know, dudes. Like, Buendia's a huge loss for how they play, and they lost Mings. And you saw immediately, Newcastle and Villa were evens until Mings went off, and then that fucking high line Talked about it last season that Unai Emery likes to play. The high line without proper coordination doesn't work. And Newcastle have that pace and passing precision to just get in behind you if you play a broken high line. And that's why we scored 5. Mings is a huge loss for them. And arguably, Villa have lost their 2 best players right at the start of the season. They're going to get off to a slow start as a result of that. And, listen, they stomped Everton today. We are going to talk about Everton. Everton have got problems again. Not even Dyche and his Brexit ball is going to dig them out of this hole. Yeah, Villa are not going to be quite as good as they should be because of that. I think they have huge problems just with the start of the season. And this is when you need to gather your points, because this is when, people are coming back from pre-season, people aren't ready, teams haven't been decided, fitness levels aren't all the way up. If you can start the sharpest at the start of the season and get a lead, you can have a wobble in the middle of the season, no problem. So anyway, Villa at 8th, I think, is fair, which leaves Tottenham are 9th this season. I think for Tottenham to finish top 8 without Harry Kane just doesn't seem viable. And so I'll repeat for this video what I said in the Prem review. And it's this. I feel so sorry for Postecoglou. Because the big Greek has come in. He's brilliant. He's revelatory. He talks a fucking good game. I really fuck with him as a manager. He seems a cool dude. And even though he hasn't necessarily done a lot outside of Celtic, because he's done most of his work in, Australian leagues and stuff, and New Zealand and Japan, I think, as well. Postecoglou has just got them playing basically a direct style of football. You watch them against United. It wasn't big. It wasn't clever. It was just get it into the channels and surge forwards, just direct. Just whatever we have to do to get the ball into the opponent's fucking third as quickly as possible. Let's just do that. No bullshit. It wasn't like Conte ball. So, listen, players thrive on that type of stuff. I think it was Basuma. He managed to get an insane performance out of. Richarlison's dog shit. Just one of the worst signings in Tottenham history for 70 mil. But, that won't last. It's a honeymoon period, and the reality of not having Kane there is going to hit them hard because the board fucked Postecoglou. If they're getting rid of Kane, so understand the situation. There's 1 year left on Harry Kane's contract. It's this season, and then they lose Harry Kane for free. Harry Kane's a 100 mil player. So if you're going to sell him, if you can't convince him to stay, you have to sell him in July. And then say to Postecoglou, here's 100 mil, go and replace Harry Kane. Now, you can't replace Harry Kane. Harry Kane is one of the best strikers the modern game has produced. He's a fucking Tottenham legend. He's an England legend. The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Tottenham. That you cannot replace a Harry Kane with 100 mil. So immediately you're getting maybe half a Kane for 100 mil. And if you can get half a Kane, that might be enough to stabilise and be top 6, 7th, get into Europa. But they don't have half a Kane even. They put Richarlison at 9. He's shit. So I don't know. You can't legislate for that. And so there's no time left to even find a viable signing. And so, listen, beat United at the start of the season, celebrate, punch the air, do all that. But over the course of, a 38-game season, you are going to realise just how upsetting not having Harry Kane is for Tottenham and how hard it's going to be. I hope the Spurs fans stick with Postecoglou and don't blame him for what the board has done. But, I can't see him getting top 8 this season, unfortunately. I think that's a bridge too far. Which means, Brentford go 10th. I just think, while we're talking about great run football clubs, Brentford, just undoubtedly right up there with Brighton as one of the best run football clubs in the league. Mbemo is in my fucking fantasy team as well. He's just going to have a tear. Wissa's on a tear. They've just brought in players, that that nobody heard of, not big reputations, and they play really good direct football again. Man, I'm sad to put them as low as 10th, honestly. They could easily be above Villa. They could easily be above Tottenham. So they could easily be above Chelsea. Who knows? This is when it gets a bit spoopy and a bit weird. But I really like Brentford, and as I said, sad to put them as low as 10th. Right, now where? West Ham, 11th. They should have fired Dave Moyes. I know, but he won a trophy. Yeah, we all saw him dancing like your drunk uncle at a wedding for winning a fucking trophy that won't even exist in like 8 years. It was pathetic. People seem to forget that West Ham were in the relegation zone for like more of the season than they were out of it. They were an embarrassment. I don't care if Bowen's on fire and he may be having sexual couplings with Danny Dyer. I don't care about any of that. Fuck West Ham for making that out to be some sort of big deal, frankly. I know people go, just let people enjoy things. Nah, fuck off. They should have said to Moyes, thanks for getting us a trophy, but your fire's gone, and we're going to bring in a real manager to do with a rebuild. Now, there's a lot of caveats with this. Moyes is garbage. I think he'll get fired this season. I really think it's going to happen. I think they're set up for a bad spell. But this stuff with Paqueta or someone called him today, Paqueta, that's what I'm calling him. It rhymes with equator, that's what I was always told. So anyway, having his family members or whatever the fuck it was, placing bets on when he's going to get booked, and there's all this like dodgy footage of him like getting booked in really stupid fucking ways. Oh yeah, they'll miss him. Keep in mind, this season, before that started simmering in the background, and you knew someone was up because he was being talked about going to United for 70 mil, leaving West Ham for 70 mil. Then all of a sudden, just nothing. Like, what's up with that, right? Well, now we know. People will have been tipped off, oh yeah, he's going to be investigated for this bullshit. If they lose him, it's a huge blow. He's a good footballer. He seems a prick, but he's a good footballer. Sorry, City, my bad. Maybe United as well. Who fucking knows? I don't know. I can't keep up with the back of those sheets. The fucking newspapers just link everyone with everyone, and that's fine apparently. But yeah, West Ham, nah. I almost want to put them lower. But as I said, there's lots of caveats with this. They've got, like, Ward-Prowse is going to be a godsend for them. And I told you he wouldn't stay at Southampton. No, he's loyal to the club, Richard. He played 400 games. You know what? If you're on the periphery of the England squad, you're not doing the championship, boys. Like, you're not going to... There's nothing. So he got 2 assists today. The first ever debutant in West Ham history to get 2 assists on his debut, apparently, according to Sky Sports, in a video game in Minecraft. So, whatever. Prowse is going to be fucking great. He's probably going to get like 5 goals as well this season because he's going to have more opportunities for free kicks. Antonio had a fucking banger today, and he's 33 and he didn't play for large periods last season. Souček had a much better game. Bowen looked really good as well. I don't know, like, they should never have had the season they had last season. I can't fathom why they were as bad as they were. The squad is way better than that. But I'm gonna put them at 11th, and I think that is reasonable, all things told. Moyes has got to go. So next, yeah, go on, have your Palace, right? Have Crystal Palace. Roy Hodgson, 76-year-old, half man, half bird. Looks like that thing when the Beetlejuice face stretching. And he's dog shit, and they should never have sacked Vieira. He's one of the biggest frauds ever in managerial history, probably up there with Sam Allardyce. But for me, Crystal Palace, they got good young players. They did lose Zaha, if I remember right. They're just Crystal Palace. They're just Palace. I'll just also say, shout out to Zaha's agent, the best agent in the game. Because where did he go? Did he go to Galatasaray? Was it Galatasaray he ended up at in the end? All this transfer season, they were saying PSG want Zaha. United return on the cards for Zaha. Chelsea to swoop in, give Zaha free transfer. Arteta to have last-minute talks. Like, his agent's just leaking this shit. None of those clubs would be 30-year-old Zaha. Like, are you fucking joking? And, of course, he didn't go to any of those clubs. He didn't even go to a top club in Europe. He went to fucking Galatasaray. So, you know what I mean? What a crock of shit. But anyway, Palace are Palace. They are mid-table mediocrity in a club. But that's fine, because it means you're not down in the doldrums with these motherfuckers. So, who's having 13? It's time to be bold. It's time to be adventurous. Yeah, I'm going to do it. This is where the whole league is fucked up. I'm feeling good about it. This is a risk. This is a gamble. I think Burnley are better than some of these teams that are in the Prem already. I think under Company with some of the young players they've got coming through. You don't know their names, but you're gonna know their names by the end of this season. Burnley were a revelation in the Championship. I think very similar to how like Fulham bossed the Championship, and then you've got like Burnley bossing it too. I think Burnley are going to be more than comfortable with those motherfuckers down there in the doldrums. And like, for example, the Burnley that has bossed the Championship and the Burnley that's already come up. I know they lost on the opening day of the season, but they're better than a Bournemouth. They're better than a Luton. They're better than a Forest. They're better than an Everton, in my opinion. So watch this space. I think they'll finish surprisingly high up and be in that lower mid-table. Comfortable this season. I don't think Burnley will get relegated. Next, this is generous for Fulham, in my opinion, but I think 14th. It could be 13th. They were the natural choice for 13th. Mitrovic, there's something weird going on at Fulham, and I don't think they did great transfer business. And what's happened with Mitrovic is really soured the club. It's really weird. I don't understand how Mitrovic can be such a piece of shit. I've got to say it. For Mitrovic to publicly come out and say he'll never play again for Fulham, spoiler, he came off the bench and played again for Fulham, just because they denied him a move to Saudi Arabia is fucking outrageous. And you know, this is a guy, like, he's like close to a goal a game for fucking Fulham. It's like, it's so pathetic. And this is what, and I talked about it in one of the previous videos where it's like, listen, the existence of the Saudi Arabian League is a viable option for players that aren't quite good enough to go to a top club, but can get the bag anyway. It's going to be hugely disruptive, and it is going to change the shape of the Premier League. And Fulham are going to be one of the first, I think, sharp focus, unfortunate beneficiaries, in air quotes, of that new dynamic. Mitrovic will leave. If he doesn't leave, he's not going to play hard. And every day he's in the dressing room, it's going to be poisonous. And it's a real shame. I also think Fulham missed a trick in. There were some players I saw going to some of the other clubs around that level in the mid-table mix. And I think Fulham could have been a little bit quicker, and they needed one or two of the bits. But anyway, it is what it is. Fulham at 14th, I'm all right with it. Next, Bournemouth. I'm pretty happy with Bournemouth staying in the league again. I talked about this again on another Prem review. I think Iraola is the perfect manager for Bournemouth in terms of how he likes to play football and the squad that they had there. I think Bournemouth, they're not great, they're not world beaters. They have one or two players I think are criminally underrated, and I do think Bournemouth will be comfortable again and stay in the league this season. Forest, trust me, I believe that Forest is one of the worst footballing sides in the league. But put it this way, they were playing like really, really bad football for a long period last season, and they're not very good attacking. They're terrible on the road, but they're competitive at home. There was a weird story, I don't know if you saw it. Chelsea were linked with Brennan Johnson. This was like fucking insane. Like, I was like, it was one of them, like, spit take, like, what the fuck is that? They managed to keep Brennan Johnson. He's important for them. I gotta say as well, they nearly stole something against Arsenal. Awani has obviously looked really good at the start of the season. That can be enough. And I think the remaining teams on the board are pretty bad for various reasons. So yeah, Forest do it again. It won't be pretty, but yeah, they're gonna stay up. And then I have to do it, but lots of caveats with this one. Everton in at 17th. Everton to just narrowly avoid relegation on the last day of the season yet again. Everton, they had to back Dyche with money, and they didn't. They had to get a striker. They're playing Mope. He's fucking one of the worst footballers I've ever fucking seen. He's got 1 goal in like 40 appearances now for Everton and claims to be a striker. He should get done for fucking fraud every time he picks up his wage slip. But I'm just going to believe in Dyche. I'm going to believe in Dyche. But they really had to make better signings, and they haven't. The business Everton have done in this transfer window is embarrassing, and ultimately they're being investigated for financial fair play. If Everton lose any points off that, they are down. So I'm on record as saying that. They can't afford to lose 3 points this season, let alone 5 or 10 or 12 or whatever they get hit with. And obviously that FFP stuff is why they haven't spent big and spent any money. The money's there. But anyway, so Dyche has got one of the hardest jobs in world football. No joke. He's got one of the hardest jobs in world football, and he's going to do it again and keep Everton up. So, Wolves go down. Wolves go down. Wolves go down. Wolves go down together. Come back up. Win the cup. Kick fuck out the Villa. That's the song that they sing, probably. Wolves, anyway. Wolves are going down because they gave Gary O'Neill the job. And I don't know, dudes. It was wrong of Bournemouth to fire him for keeping Bournemouth up, but it was crazy of Wolves to hire him to be better than Lopetegui. I just don't get it. I don't know what they're seeing. I already have seen enough to make me think that without Neves and without a system, I think they're gone. I think they're down. They just don't do it for me anymore as a club. And yeah, it's sad. I like Wolves. A lot of love for Wolves, even going back to the Steve Bull and I want to say Carlton Palmer days, if memory serves me correct. But whatever, they're down. 19th, Sheffield United. Course they're down. Has there ever been a better definition of a yo-yo club than Sheffield United? They just love it, mate. They fucking love to come up. They love to go down. Oi, oi. But yeah, unfortunately, I just don't think there's enough quality there at Sheffield United to keep them in the league. Yeah, Norwich is another good example, actually. Yeah, they're just not gonna do it again. It's Sheffield United. And then Luton. Luton in last spot at 20th. I mean, obviously, right? I think they're tourists this season. I know everyone said that about Bournemouth last season, but I think Luton are conceivably... Well, not conceivably. Luton have a worse squad coming up this season than Bournemouth did coming up last season. So, not vibing with it. I think it's a miracle if Luton don't finish bottom. I think if they even finish 19th, I think there's positives there. So that's my fucking team of Rooney. City to win, Arsenal second, United third, Liverpool fourth. Newcastle 5th, Brighton 6th, Chelsea 7th, Villa 8th, Tottenham 9th, Brentford 10th, West Ham 11th, Palace 12th, Burnley 13th in a shock move, Fulham 14th, Bournemouth 15th, Forest 16th, Everton 17th, because Dyche is in the third ring of hell. And then Wolves, Sheffield United, and Luton to go down. Now, look, last season was one of the wildest seasons in terms to predict. There was so much going on. I think this season feels a little bit more stable and a little bit more concrete. I would be very surprised if there was high variance in this. But I'll just say some areas to watch will be Newcastle. Getting back into the Champions League can break them, make them or break them. Their squad might not be big enough for that task, and they could actually finish as low as 7th. Chelsea, who the fuck knows? Do you even know what Chelsea starting 11 should look like? I don't. I couldn't definitively say. I do know Mudryk has been a waste of time. I'll tell you that. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how you would pick a starting 11 for Chelsea right now. So who knows? Pochettino might crack the code. He's a very good manager, and I think he'll find something that works for Chelsea, but it's going to take him a while, unfortunately, which is why I got them 7th. I think they're going to get off to a slow start. Villa, up and down. It depends on how long Buendia and Mings are out for. And Burnley, obviously. I'm putting a lot of stock in Company and some of the young players that we'll talk about in the rating of the transfer business. And there you go. Predictions.